The quantum sensors of the Horizon Research Station hummed with an intensity that made the hair on Dr. Maya Chen's neck stand on end. Her fingers hovered over the holographic interface, tracing delicate patterns of light that danced between complex algorithmic displays. Outside the station's reinforced windows, the infinite darkness of deep space stretched, a canvas of infinite possibilities waiting to be understood. It was 3:47 Universal Time when the first anomalous signal began to resolve itself. Maya had seen countless astronomical phenomena during her decade-long career, but this was different. The signal didn't just breach the background radiation of space. It carved through it with mathematical precision that spoke of deliberate communication. "System, analyze," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tremor of excitement running through her body. The station's artificial intelligence, ARIA, began processing the incoming data. Quantum algorithms compared the signal against every known communication pattern in the research database. Lines of probability flickered across the main display, creating a complex tapestry of potential meanings. Dr. Ibrahim Khan, Maya's research partner, burst into the observation module. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by a barely contained enthusiasm. "Are you seeing this?" he asked, though the answer was obvious in the way the entire station seemed to vibrate with anticipation. Maya nodded, her eyes never leaving the cascading data streams. "It's a message," she said softly, "but not like anything we've ever intercepted before." The signal wasn't random noise or a natural astronomical emission. It was a deliberate, structured communication that seemed to be testing the intellectual capacity of its recipients. Mathematical sequences intertwined with complex geometric patterns, creating a linguistic puzzle that challenged everything humanity understood about potential extraterrestrial communication. Araya's voice emerged from the station's speakers, its tone carefully modulated to convey the significance of the discovery. Initial analysis suggests the signal contains multiple layers of encoded information. Probability of artificial origin, 99.987%. Within minutes, the Horizon's communication protocols engage. Encrypted quantum channels connected to research centers across Earth, transmitting the initial findings. From the deep space observatories of Chile to the quantum research facilities in Beijing, scientists began to collaborate with a speed and intensity that transcended national boundaries. Maya watched as the global scientific community transformed into a single unified organism of intellectual pursuit. Research teams from different continents shared data, proposed theories, and began attempting to decode the mysterious signal. What could have been a moment of competitive scientific discovery became a testament to human collaborative potential. "It's like a mathematical handshake," Dr. Khan observed, tracing the signal's complex geometric progressions. "Someone, or something, is reaching out, testing our capacity to understand." The signal contained multiple levels of complexity. Some sequences appeared to be prime number progressions, while others seemed to encode spatial relationships that suggested a three-dimensional understanding of communication far beyond human current capabilities. Each layer revealed another level of intellectual challenge. Military and diplomatic channels began to activate. The discovery wasn't just a scientific breakthrough. It was a potential first contact scenario that could reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. Secure communication networks buzzed with carefully measured responses, balancing scientific curiosity with strategic caution. Dr. Chen realized they were standing at the precipice of a moment that would define human history. This wasn't just about discovering an alien signal. It was about proving humanity's intellectual adaptability, its capacity to reach beyond known limitations. "We need to respond," she said finally, looking at Ibrahim. "But we need to do it in a way that demonstrates our complexity, our potential." The research team began constructing a response. It would be a mathematical and conceptual reply that captured the essence of human creativity, a message that showed they were more than just recipients of communication, but active, intelligent participants in a cosmic dialogue. As the first rays of simulated dawn began to fill the Horizon's observation module, Maya Chen understood that everything was about to change. Humanity was no longer just looking at the stars. For the first time, the stars were looking back and extending an invitation to something extraordinary. The bridge of the international defense vessel Pathfinder felt like a cathedral of controlled tension. Commander Jack Rodriguez studied the holographic projections with an intensity that belied years of military training and strategic thinking. The approaching stellar concordance fleet was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, a masterpiece of technological precision that seemed to defy the very laws of known physics. Lieutenant Aria Nakamura, the ship's quantum communications specialist, broke the silence. "They're not just approaching," she said, her voice a mixture of professional calm and underlying concern. "They're scanning us in ways our systems can barely comprehend." The alien ships moved with a synchronicity that suggested a collective consciousness. Sleek metallic structures shifted and realigned, their surfaces absorbing and reflecting light in patterns that seemed to challenge the very concept of solid matter. Each vessel appeared to be both a weapon and a living organism, integrated in a way that human technology could only dream of achieving. Rodriguez tapped a sequence on his command interface, bringing up the latest intelligence reports. The stellar concordance wasn't just another spacefaring civilization. They were conquerors who had systematically absorbed or eliminated hundreds of planetary civilizations across multiple star systems. Their technological superiority was legendary, their military strategy considered unassailable. "They're waiting," he muttered, more to himself than to the bridge crew. But waiting for what? The global defense network hummed with activity. From orbital platforms to ground-based quantum defense systems, humanity prepared in a way that defied traditional military doctrine. This wasn't about matching alien technology. It was about creating entirely new paradigms of resistance. In a secure research facility beneath the Andes Mountains, Dr. Elena Rodriguez, no relation to the commander, was putting the final touches on a project that had consumed the last 5 years of her life. Her team had been working on something the military initially considered impossible, a defensive system that didn't just protect, but actively learned and adapted. Adaptive Quantum Interference Network, she explained to the military liaison watching her work. Traditional shields are static. Our system doesn't just block, it understands, predicts, and counteracts. The first wave of stellar concordance probes hit Earth's defensive perimeter. What should have been a simple reconnaissance mission turned into something far more complex. Each probe encountered a defensive network that responded to its approach with an intelligence that seemed almost organic. Commander Rodriguez watched the initial engagement with a mixture of professional detachment and barely contained excitement. The alien probes didn't just encounter resistance, they encountered a living, thinking defense system that adapted faster than their programming could compensate. Lieutenant Nakamura's console erupted with activity. "Sir, they're attempting multiple communication frequencies simultaneously," she reported. "But our quantum encryption is holding. They can't get a read on our primary communication networks." The true strength of humanity was becoming apparent. Where the stellar concordance expected uniform responses and predictable defensive patterns, they encountered a species that viewed every challenge as an opportunity for innovation. Military strategy mixed with scientific creativity, creating a defensive approach that was fundamentally unpredictable. Deep in the Pacific Quantum Research Center, a team of young programmers began implementing a series of algorithms that would become legendary. They weren't just creating defensive protocols, they were turning the very concept of technological warfare on its head. "It's like a global immune system," one of the lead programmers explained to her colleagues. "We're not just defending, we're learning, adapting, growing with every moment of contact." The first hours of potential conflict became a complex dance of technological adaptation. The stellar concordance fleet found itself confronted by a species that refused to be categorized, understood, or easily conquered. Every standard approach was met with a response that seemed to come from a completely different logic system. Commander Rodriguez allowed himself the briefest moment of a smile. "They have no idea what they're dealing with," he said quietly. As the first day of potential conflict drew to a close, Humanity stood united in a way it never had before. National boundaries dissolved in the face of a greater challenge. Scientific research centers, military installations, and civilian support networks worked with a synchronicity that surprised even themselves. The stars outside the Pathfinder's observation windows seemed to hold their breath. Something extraordinary was about to unfold, a confrontation that would redefine the very concept of technological conflict. The Global Innovation Center in New Delhi buzzed with an energy that defied traditional research protocols. Banks of quantum computers lined the walls, their cooling systems creating a soft, rhythmic hum that seemed to pulse with collective purpose. At the center of this technological ecosystem stood Rahul Sharma, a 29-year-old programming prodigy whose latest breakthrough would change everything. "We're not trying to match their technology," Rahul explained to the international team gathered around him. "We're going to completely rewrite the rules of engagement." The challenge was unprecedented. The stellar concordance's communication networks were considered impenetrable, a technological marvel that had overwhelmed countless civilizations. Their defense systems used quantum entanglement in ways that made traditional hacking attempts look like primitive Morse code. Dr. Yuna Kim, a cybersecurity expert from Seoul, leaned over the primary display. Complex algorithm patterns danced across the holographic interface, representing what most would consider an impossible task. "Their communication network is more than just a system," she muttered. "It's almost a living organism." Rahul's team had discovered something remarkable. The alien communication network, for all its sophistication, relied on a fundamental assumption: that information would always flow in predictable patterns. Human creativity thrived on breaking those very assumptions. In research facilities around the world, teams worked with unprecedented collaboration. Scientists from Beijing to Berlin, from Cape Town to Chicago, shared data in real time. National boundaries dissolved in the face of a greater challenge. This wasn't just a technological problem. It was a species-level puzzle. The breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of disciplines. A neural network algorithm developed by a team of linguists merged with quantum computing principles created by particle physicists. What emerged was a communication interface that didn't just attempt to breach the alien network. It sought to understand it fundamentally. "We're not attacking," Rahul explained during a secure global briefing. "We're translating. Every communication network is a language, and every language can be understood." The first successful probe into the stellar concordance's communication system happened almost by accident. A seemingly random pattern of quantum fluctuations created by the team revealed microscopic vulnerabilities. It was like finding a single thread in an impossibly complex tapestry, and then carefully unraveling the entire fabric. Military strategists watched in awe as the initial results came in. The alien network didn't just have weak points, it had fundamental structural limitations that no previous civilization had been patient or creative enough to identify. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's adaptive defense team worked in parallel. If they could understand the communication network, they could potentially predict and counter the stellar concordance's strategic movements. Each piece of intercepted data became a window into an alien way of thinking. They view technological conflict as a mathematical equation, Dr. Rodriguez noted during a strategy session. "We see it as a creative challenge." The global team's approach was fundamentally different from any previous defensive strategy. Where traditional military thinking would seek to destroy, they sought to understand, redirect, and ultimately transform the threat. Rahul's team created what they called quantum linguistic algorithms, computational models that could not just decode alien communications, but potentially rewrite them. It was like learning to speak a language so deeply that you could begin to reshape its very grammar. Lieutenant Arya Nakamura from the Pathfinder integrated these new algorithms into the ship's defensive systems. What had once been a purely defensive tool became an adaptive communication platform that could actively engage with alien technological systems. The breakthrough came during a simulated conflict scenario. The team's algorithms didn't just defend against the Stellar Concordance's communication attempts. They began to introduce subtle variations that confused and destabilized the alien network's predictive models. "We're not fighting," Rogul told his team as they watched the simulation unfold. "We're having a conversation they don't understand yet." As the first successful communication manipulation was recorded, a global cheer erupted in research centers around the world. This was more than a technological achievement. It was proof of humanity's most powerful asset, the ability to look at an impossible challenge and see it as an opportunity for creative problem-solving. The stars outside seemed to shimmer with possibility. Humanity had just taken its first step into a larger, more complex understanding of technological conflict, and they were just getting started. The Psychological Warfare Research Facility sat nestled in the mountains of Switzerland, a nondescript building that belied the revolutionary work happening inside its walls. Dr. Sofia Martinez stood before a team of international experts, her presentation challenging everything the Stellar Concordance understood about human motivation. "They see us as a predictable system," she explained, her voice calm and precise. "But human beings are not algorithms to be solved. We are living, breathing narratives of infinite complexity." The research team had discovered something profound about the alien civilization's approach to understanding other species. The Stellar Concordance relied on extensive psychological profiling, creating detailed predictive models that had allowed them to subjugate countless civilizations. Their fatal flaw was believing these models were absolute. Captain Michael Chen, a decorated military psychologist, walked the team through their findings. Individual human soldiers demonstrated psychological resilience that defied all known extraspecies behavioral models. Where the Stellar Concordance expected uniform responses, they encountered individuals capable of extraordinary acts of creativity, sacrifice, and unpredictability. "Look at this data set," Michael said, highlighting a series of simulated conflict scenarios. In similar situations, most species would have a 92% probability of surrender. Humans, we introduce variables that are fundamentally unquantifiable. The psychological warfare team had developed a new approach that went beyond traditional defensive strategies. They weren't just protecting against alien psychological manipulation. They were actively reshaping the very concept of psychological conflict. In a secure communication hub, Lieutenant Arya Nakamura worked with a team of linguists and cognitive scientists. They were developing communication strategies that would make the Stellar Concordance question their fundamental understanding of intelligence and motivation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's adaptive defense team discovered something extraordinary. The alien civilization's predictive models struggled with core human concepts like individual creativity, emotional resilience, and collective solidarity. These were not weaknesses, they were fundamental strengths that the Stellar Concordance could not comprehend. "Emotional intelligence is our superpower," Dr. Martins noted during a briefing. "They see emotions as computational errors. We see them as our greatest adaptive mechanism." The team began constructing psychological profiles that would deliberately challenge the alien civilization's understanding. Each communication, each intercepted signal, became an opportunity to introduce complexity that their rigid analytical systems couldn't process. Major Sarah Williams, a specialist in unconventional warfare, developed training protocols that emphasized individual creativity and psychological flexibility. Military training transformed from rigid hierarchical structures to adaptive, creative problem-solving ecosystems. "We're not creating soldiers," she explained to her international training team. "We're developing human beings who can think beyond any predefined strategy." Psychological warfare became a multi-dimensional chess match. The Stellar Concordance tried to categorize human responses, only to find that each attempt revealed more about their own limitations than about human capabilities. In research centers around the world, teams worked on what they called narrative disruption strategies. They weren't just defending against psychological manipulation. They were actively creating communication patterns that would challenge the very foundation of the alien civilization's understanding. Dr. Sofia Martinez's most significant breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. By studying the psychological profiles of artists, musicians, and creative professionals, the team discovered that human creativity itself was a form of psychological defense mechanism. Imagination is our ultimate weapon, she told the International Research Committee. It's something they cannot predict, cannot control, and cannot understand. The Stellar Concordance's initial psychological models began to break down. Each attempt to categorize human behavior revealed more complex layers of motivation. Individual stories of courage, creativity, and unexpected kindness became psychological weapon systems more powerful than any traditional military technology. Captain Michael Chen summarized their findings in a secure briefing. "We are not just resisting," he said. "We are fundamentally redefining the concept of psychological conflict." As the first full psychological analysis was completed, the research team understood they had discovered something revolutionary. Humanity was not just a species to be studied. It was a dynamic, living narrative that could not be reduced to simple predictive models. The stars outside seemed to watch with growing curiosity. Something extraordinary was unfolding, a conflict that would challenge the very understanding of intelligence, motivation, and survival. The Quantum Research Laboratory in Sao Paulo hummed with an energy that seemed to defy the laws of conventional physics. Dr. Elena Petrova stood before a massive holographic display, her fingers dancing across quantum computational interfaces that represented humanity's most ambitious technological leap. "We're not just improving technology," she explained to her international research team. "We're reimagining the fundamental principles of space, time, and communication." The breakthrough began with an impossible challenge. Traditional propulsion and communication systems were linear, predictable, bounded by known physical limitations. Dr. Petrova's team was creating something entirely different, a system that didn't just move through space, but could potentially interact with the fabric of space-time itself. Dr. Akira Tanaka, a brilliant quantum physicist from Tokyo, approached the primary research station. "The neural quantum interface is showing unprecedented stability," he reported, his voice a mixture of professional calm and barely contained excitement. What made their approach revolutionary was its fundamental design philosophy. Instead of trying to overcome physical limitations, the team sought to understand and work with the underlying quantum principles that governed reality. They weren't building a technology. They were creating a living, adaptive system that could learn and transform. The initial prototypes defied everything the scientific community understood about propulsion. Traditional rocket systems, and even advanced ion drives, seemed primitive by comparison. This new technology didn't just move, it negotiated with the very fabric of space-time. Dr. Maria Rodriguez, a specialist in quantum biomechanics, explained the core concept during a secure global briefing. "We're creating a communication and propulsion system that thinks," she said, "not in the way a computer thinks, but in the way a living organism adapts and responds." The Stellar Concordance's technological superiority had always been based on predictable, hierarchical systems. They viewed technology as a tool to be controlled, a weapon to be wielded. Humanity was developing something fundamentally different, a technological approach that was more akin to a living, breathing ecosystem. Prototype tests began in the most secure research facilities around the world. Each test revealed layers of complexity that challenged the very understanding of technological development. The quantum neural interface could predict potential system failures before they occurred, adapting in real time with a flexibility that seemed almost organic. Dr. Petrova's team had created something that was part technology, part living system. The propulsion prototype could analyze potential navigation challenges, calculate multiple potential paths, and choose the most efficient route, all in milliseconds. Lieutenant Arya Nakamura from the Pathfinder integrated the initial prototype into the ship's experimental systems. During the first full-scale test, the technology demonstrated capabilities that left the entire research team speechless. It didn't just move the ship, It seemed to understand the ship's potential trajectory with an intelligence that bordered on prescience. It's like the technology is having a conversation with the universe, Dr. Tanaka observed during the test, watching as the experimental drive created quantum tunnels that seemed to bend the very rules of physical movement. The global scientific community watched in awe. This wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It was a fundamental reimagining of humanity's relationship with technology and space. Each test revealed more about the potential of human creativity and innovation. Dr. Maria Rodriguez's biomechanical insights played a crucial role. By integrating biological adaptation principles into quantum computational systems, they created a technology that could learn, grow, and transform in ways no previous system could achieve. The stellar concordance's long-range sensors began detecting anomalies that they could not explain. Quantum fluctuations that seemed to defy their most advanced tracking systems began appearing around human research facilities. It was as if humanity was learning to speak a language of technology that the alien civilization had never encountered. During a critical test, the experimental drive did something unexpected. It didn't just calculate the most efficient path. It seemed to understand the underlying mathematical principles of space-time itself. Navigation became less about movement and more about communication with the fundamental fabric of reality. Dr. Elena Petrova watched the final test results with a sense of profound wonder. "We're not just developing a technology," she told her team. "We're creating a new way of understanding our place in the universe." As the prototype powered down, the research facility seemed to vibrate with potential. The stars outside the reinforced windows looked different, no longer distant and unreachable, but full of possibility and invitation. Humanity had just taken its first step into a larger, more complex understanding of technological potential, and they were just beginning to understand the true depth of their capabilities. The United Nations diplomatic complex in Geneva had been transformed into a nexus of unprecedented strategic thinking. Marcus Wong stood at the center of a holographic display that mapped the intricate political landscape of the stellar concordance, his fingers tracing delicate lines of potential diplomatic intervention. "We're not just negotiating," Marcus explained to his international team of diplomatic specialists. "We're conducting a symphony of political complexity." Years of careful research had revealed something extraordinary about the stellar concordance. Their seemingly monolithic civilization was actually a delicate web of political tensions, cultural divisions, and unresolved historical conflicts. What appeared to be a unified force was, in fact, a carefully maintained illusion of strength. Dr. Aisha Patel, a xenopolitical expert from Mumbai, highlighted key fracture points in the alien civilization structure. "Look here," she said, zooming into a complex holographic representation. "These are not just political boundaries. They're unresolved cultural traumas that have been suppressed for generations." The diplomatic team had developed an approach that went far beyond traditional negotiation strategies. They weren't attempting to defeat the stellar concordance. They were working to understand its fundamental social and political mechanisms. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez coordinated with a global network of experts, linguists, anthropologists, political scientists, and strategic analysts worked in an unprecedented collaborative effort. Each piece of intercepted communication, each fragment of alien cultural data became a potential leverage point. Marcus Wong's most significant breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. By analyzing the communication patterns and subtle diplomatic exchanges within the stellar concordance, the team discovered deep-seated tensions that had been carefully masked from external observation. "They've been maintaining a facade of unity," Marcus explained during a secure briefing. "But beneath the surface, there are fundamental disagreements about expansion, resource allocation, and cultural preservation." The diplomatic strategy became a complex, multidimensional chess match. Instead of direct confrontation, the human diplomatic team began introducing subtle communication patterns that would gradually expose and exacerbate existing tensions within the alien civilization. Dr. Aisha Patel's xenolinguistic research played a crucial role. By understanding the nuanced communication methods of the stellar concordance, the team could introduce diplomatic communications that would resonate with specific internal factions. "Language is more than words," she told the diplomatic team. "It's a window into cultural psychology." The global diplomatic network worked with an unprecedented level of coordination. Information was shared in real time, with experts from different disciplines contributing their unique perspectives. What emerged was a strategy that was part diplomatic intervention, part complex social engineering. Ambassador Rodriguez discovered something remarkable. The stellar concordance's method of conflict resolution was fundamentally different from human approaches. Where humans saw potential for negotiation and compromise, the alien civilization viewed conflicts as mathematical problems to be solved through rigid protocols. "Our greatest strength is our ability to see complexity," Marcus Wong noted during a strategy session. "They see the world as a series of equations. We see it as a living, breathing narrative." The diplomatic team began introducing communication patterns that would gradually destabilize the stellar concordance's internal political structure. Each diplomatic communication was carefully crafted to resonate with specific internal tensions, creating microscopic but significant pressure points. Intercepted communications revealed deep-seated cultural divisions that had been carefully suppressed. Some factions within the stellar concordance viewed expansion as a form of cultural preservation, while others saw it as a potential threat to their fundamental social structures. Dr. Aisha Patel's team developed what they called narrative disruption strategies. These were diplomatic communications designed to introduce complexity into the alien civilization's understanding of their own social and political landscape. "We're not destroying," she explained. "We're revealing the complexity that already exists." As the diplomatic strategy began to take effect, the first signs of internal tension became visible. Communication patterns within the stellar concordance began to show microscopic but significant shifts. Diplomatic channels that had been rigidly controlled for generations began to show unexpected variations. Marcus Wong watched the holographic display with a sense of profound possibility. "We're not just changing their approach to conflict," he told his team. "We're demonstrating a fundamentally different way of understanding social complexity." The stars outside the diplomatic complex seemed to shimmer with potential. Humanity had discovered something profound: that true power lies not in force, but in understanding, complexity, and the ability to see beyond simple binary solutions. Something extraordinary was unfolding, a diplomatic intervention that would challenge the very understanding of conflict resolution. The bridge of the Pathfinder felt like the eye of a cosmic storm. Commander Jack Rodriguez watched the holographic displays with an intensity that seemed to compress time itself. Around him, the best of humanity's military and scientific expertise worked in a synchronicity that defied traditional understanding of conflict. "This isn't just a battle," Jack muttered to Lieutenant Arya Nakamura. "This is a conversation we're having with the entire universe." The final confrontation with the stellar concordance began not with a thunderous explosion, but with a series of quantum resonances that seemed to ripple through the fabric of space itself. Humanity's technological innovations, psychological insights, and diplomatic groundwork had created something far more powerful than any traditional weapon. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's adaptive defense systems came online, transforming the Pathfinder into more than just a military vessel. It was a living, thinking entity that could predict, adapt, and respond faster than any conventional military system could comprehend. The alien fleet approached with a precision that had crushed countless civilizations. Massive ships that looked like living mathematical equations moved in perfect synchronization. Their technology was centuries ahead of what humanity had possessed just a decade ago. But something was different this time. Lieutenant Nakamura's quantum communication systems began to introduce subtle variations into the alien fleet's communication networks. These were not simple disruptions. They were complex linguistic patterns that challenged the very foundation of the stellar concordance's technological understanding. "They're trying to solve us like an equation," Dr. Sofia Martinez observed from the psychological warfare station. "But we're not a problem to be solved. We're a living, breathing narrative." The first wave of alien attack probes encountered something unprecedented. Human defensive systems didn't just block or counter. They engaged in a form of technological dialogue that the stellar concordance had never experienced. Each defensive response was a complex message, a demonstration of adaptive intelligence that went beyond simple military strategy. Commander Rodriguez watched as the experimental quantum drive developed by Dr. Elena Petrova's team came to life. It wasn't just a propulsion system. It was a living communication interface with the universe itself. The Pathfinder began to move in patterns that seemed to defy the traditional understanding of space and time. "We're not fighting," Jack said softly. "We're demonstrating a different way of existing." The psychological warfare team had prepared for this moment. Years of research into alien communication patterns, cultural analysis, and adaptive response strategies converged in a series of interactions that were part communication, part strategic defense. Dr. Aisha Patel's diplomatic groundwork became visible in the macro-scale conflict. The internal tensions within the stellar concordance that had been carefully exposed began to manifest. Some fleet segments showed hesitation. Others displayed unexpected communication patterns that suggested deep-seated doubts. Lieutenant Nakamura's quantum communication systems were working overtime. They weren't just defending. They were actively engaging with the alien fleet's communication networks, introducing complexity that challenged their fundamental understanding of conflict. "Look at their formation," Dr. Martins pointed out. "They're trying to apply their standard conflict resolution algorithms, but we're operating on an entirely different level of engagement." The experimental weapons systems developed by the Global Defense Network came online. These were not traditional weapons, but adaptive systems that could transform their approach in milliseconds. Each defensive action was a complex message, a demonstration of humanity's fundamental strength. Commander Rodriguez realized they were doing something unprecedented. This wasn't just a military engagement, it was a comprehensive demonstration of human potential. Every system, every response was a testament to humanity's ability to adapt, to think beyond established boundaries. The stellar concordance fleet began to show signs of systemic confusion. Their rigid communication protocols, which had conquered countless civilizations, encountered a form of resistance they could not categorize or understand. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's adaptive defense systems reached a moment of profound breakthrough. The defensive network wasn't just responding. It was learning, growing, transforming in real time. Each interaction with the alien fleet became an opportunity for understanding, for communication. "We're writing a new language of conflict," Jack said to Lieutenant Nakamura. "A language of possibility." As the confrontation reached its peak, something extraordinary happened. The boundary between defense and communication began to blur. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were engaging in a fundamental reimagining of what conflict could mean. The stars outside seemed to hold their breath. Something profound was unfolding, a confrontation that would redefine the very understanding of intelligence, potential, and survival. The Global Restoration Center in Geneva felt like a cathedral of possibility. Dr. Maya Chen stood before an international assembly, her presentation representing the culmination of humanity's most extraordinary journey. The holographic displays behind her showed the profound transformation that had occurred in the weeks following the conflict with the stellar concordance. "We didn't just survive," she told the assembled representatives from every corner of the globe. "We fundamentally redefined what it means to be an advanced civilization." The aftermath of the conflict was unlike any previous interaction between spacefaring civilizations. Where conquest would have been the standard response, humanity offered something entirely different, a comprehensive understanding and an invitation to dialogue. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been instrumental in developing the adaptive defense systems, now led the interstellar communication research. Her team had discovered that the conflict was more than a military engagement. It was a profound cultural exchange that would reshape galactic understanding. The stellar concordance was not destroyed. Instead, it was fundamentally transformed. The internal tensions that had been carefully exposed during the diplomatic intervention now created an opportunity for radical reimagination of their entire social structure. Ambassador Marcus Wong explained the diplomatic breakthrough during a secure briefing. "We didn't defeat them," he said. "We demonstrated a different way of existing, a way that values complexity, adaptation, and mutual understanding." Research centers around the world began receiving transmissions from various factions within the former Stellar Concordance. These were not communications of surrender, but invitations to understand, to learn, to grow together. Dr. Aisha Patel's xenolinguistic research team worked tirelessly to create communication protocols that could bridge the vast cultural and technological differences. Each transmission was a delicate dance of understanding, a careful negotiation of meaning that went far beyond simple translation. The technological innovations developed during the conflict began to transform multiple aspects of human society. Dr. Elena Petrova's quantum communication systems found applications that went far beyond space exploration. Medical research, environmental restoration, and global communication were revolutionized in ways no one had previously imagined. Commander Jack Rodriguez, now leading the International Space Exploration Initiative, outlined the new approach to galactic interaction. "We're not conquerors," he explained. "We're explorers, collaborators, students of the universe." The global scientific community had discovered something profound. The technologies and strategies developed during the conflict were not weapons. They were tools of understanding, of connection, of mutual growth. Lieutenant Arya Nakamura led a team developing the next generation of quantum communication interfaces. These were not just technological systems, but living platforms of cultural and scientific exchange. Each breakthrough was a testament to humanity's fundamental strength, the ability to see potential where others saw only barriers. Dr. Sofia Martinez's psychological research revealed the deeper implications of their encounter. The conflict had been a catalyst for a profound shift in human understanding. Species that had been confined by rigid thinking now began to see the universe as a complex, interconnected narrative of possibility. The restoration centers became more than just diplomatic facilities. They were living laboratories of interspecies understanding, where representatives from various civilizations could come together to learn, to grow, to reimagine what was possible. Global resources that had been directed toward military development were now channeled into collaborative research, environmental restoration, and interstellar communication. The conflict had revealed humanity's true potential, not as a species of conquerors, but as perpetual students of the universe. Dr. Maya Chin's final presentation to the Global Assembly captured the essence of their journey. "We didn't just survive an encounter with an advanced civilization," she said. "We demonstrated a fundamentally different approach to existence." The stars outside seemed to shimmer with new possibility. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had opened a door to a larger, more complex understanding of what it meant to be an intelligent species in a vast, interconnected universe. Research facilities around the world began receiving transmissions from civilizations that had been watching the conflict. These were not messages of fear, but of curiosity, of potential collaboration. Ambassador Marcus Wong summarized the transformation during a historic address. "We are not defined by our ability to conquer," he said. "We are defined by our capacity to understand, to adapt, to grow." The Global Restoration Center fell silent, filled with a sense of profound possibility. Humanity had done more than survive. They had demonstrated a new way of existing, an approach to intelligence that valued complexity, creativity, and mutual understanding. Something extraordinary had unfolded, a transformation that would be remembered as the moment humanity truly became a galactic civilization.